In this video, I'll be sharing with you how to make this gypsy dress. If you haven't seen the drafting tutorial, please go down to my YouTube channel. Without much wasting time, let's dive right into today's video. So in our previous video, we cut this out and I used this pattern to also cut out the lining. And for the lining of the dress, I used the same fabric and I ironed a light gum stay on it. This is just to give the front part of the dress stability. So now I'll go ahead and I will pin this down. After I'm done pinning this down, I'll go ahead and I will stitch this with 1/2 inch all the way around. So after I'm done stitching, we'll move over to the back pattern, and this is what I cut out for the back. I also use this to cut out the lining. So for this particular dress, I actually used the lining for the back. Just the front, I used only 10 main fabric. This is just to add stability to the front part of the dress. Go ahead also to iron your soft gum stay on it. So place your material on the lining and you are going to stitch this down, leaving the armhole part. So I'm done stitching this part, and the next thing I'll do is to go ahead and notch this dress. I'm going to go ahead to notch this all the way around and at the neckline, and make sure that at the curvy part of the neckline you notch it very well. Also go ahead to notch the armhole part of this pattern and also repeat this at the other side. Then I will go ahead to turn it to the right side. So this is what I have, and also go ahead to iron out. This is what the back pattern looks like. Now we are going to mark our darts. To mark the darts part of this dress, I will go ahead to place my tape at the lower part. My shoulder to waist is 17 plus 1/2 inch for the joining. So now I'll go ahead and mark my shoulder to bust, which is 9 inches. From that point, I'll come down by 1 inch. And I'll go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. After this, I'll mark 1/2 inch on both sides. I'll also extend this all the way to the upper part. Go ahead to place my tape and I'll locate my shoulder to bust, come down by 1 inch, and I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 and connect. So your dart is supposed to start 1 inch after your bust line. So I'll just go ahead and stitch that down with 1/2 inch. So for this part of your dress, you're going to place the zipper part together and you're going to go ahead to mark out the zipper allowance. So I added 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance. After shaping out with 1/2 inch, I measured 1 inch. So I placed my tape and I still marked my nipple to nipple divided by 2 again, and I still came down by that same 1 inch after my bust point. Mark 1/2 inch on both sides and connect. So I'll also repeat this at the other side of my pattern also. After I'm done shaping out my dart, the next thing is to go ahead to join the upper part, and at this point you'll be pinning this part later. So that point you marked at the zipper part, you'll be pinning it later, but you don't need this now because you need to go ahead and join the shoulder. So I'm just making sure that this part at the zipper matches each other. So to turn the sleeve part of this dress, I'm going to go ahead to place it this way. So now I'll use the back to wrap the front. Stitch the upper part with 1/2 inch. Now you're going to be stitching this part, the side that you did not join with 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go ahead to flip the right part of my dress into the back part this way, and I'll stitch with 1/2 inch on this side. So after I'm done stitching, this is what I have. I also repeated the same process at the other side and went ahead to pin the zipper allowance. So I'll go ahead and pin my front pattern to the back pattern before going ahead to shape the dress. To shape the dress, I'll go ahead and place my tape and I will mark out my shoulder to bust line, my shoulder to under bust line, and my shoulder to waistline. So I'll place my tape at this point and I will measure. So what I have at the bust is 18 inches. That is, drag your dress at this point very well, and my bust is 33 divided by 2. I have 16 and a half. So that 18 minus 16 and a half, I have 1.5, but I'll be marking 1 inch on both sides of my pattern because I want to tighten the bust area going towards the armhole. Now I'll mark my under bust, which is 28 inches. 28 divided by 4, I have 14. Now I'll just go ahead and place my measurement at this point. What I have here is 16. 16 minus 14, you have 2 inches. So I'll be sharing 1 inch on both sides. So I'll use the same process also to mark the waistline of my pattern because my waistline and my under bust is the same. This is just a basic method of shaping your dress. So I'll just go ahead and mark. After I'm done marking this, we'll go ahead and stitch it up. So after I was done sewing, this is what I have. And next I'm going to fold my fabric this way, notch the center of the dress to get the midpoint. So now this is the lower part of my dress, which I've also gone ahead to fold. So you have to weave it out or fold it, and go ahead also to notch the center. So now I'll go ahead and run a gather stitch on both sides for that one. So for this part, I've also folded the lower part. I'll go ahead to fold the upper part, and I'll also run a gather stitch at the upper part. Also notch the upper part of your dress because you'll be using it to create the gypsy effect. So I'll go ahead to use my needle and thread to gather this, and this is what I have. You can also use your machine to run a gather stitch on it. So now I'm going to find the center which I notched. So I'm also going to place the notched part on the notched part of the dress. So when I was actually gathering this, I was supposed to create like a box splitting after the gathering, which I forgot. So I just did my like gathers at the waistline. So if you're actually doing yours, after you're done gathering, try and create like a box split on the waistline. So I actually forgot. When I was done sewing the dress, that was when I realized, so I could not go back again to loosen the dress. So I'll just go ahead and pin the upper part of the dress to the gather part of my dress this way. And after I'm done pinning it, I'll also stitch it with 1/2 inch joining it. So remember, like I said, go ahead to create a box splitting at the lower part of your dress. I actually forgot that when I was sewing. After I was done sewing, this is what I have on the dress. I'll just run a small gather stitch on it. So you're not meant to gather it that much, just very little to make it look like you have a gather effect there, just very little. So after I was done sewing, this is the lower part which I also gathered, just like I said. After folding it, I had to gather it. So for this lower part, for the upper part of your dress, if you use 2.5 inches for the upper part, you want to consider using more. Like, let's say your upper part is 2.5, the lower part should be, the second gathers should be 3.5 or 4 inches to give you that free effect. So now if you notice, I've gone ahead to place these gathers on this part. So I actually did that while I was recording or filming this video, but I didn't know that my camera wasn't recording. So I'll just go ahead and show you how to place this on it. So now you're going to take the gathered parts for the lower part, and you're going to take the upper part and place it underneath the lower part of this dress. And while placing it, you're just going to use 1/2 inch. And also, when you're doing this, you want to consider also making like a box splitting. So just like I said, when I was actually making this dress, I forgot that the dress had a little box splitting, and I just went ahead to join the dress this way. So I'll just go ahead and I'll pin this. After pinning it, I'll be running a top stitch on top of the one on top of the lower part of the dress to hold it down.
Say everything I do is for my woman. Anything I talk where you talk, I go do. Me, I know they see another girl for my.
After you're done pinning, like I said, what you're going to do now is to run a stitch on it. So for the back part, I'm going to turn this to the other way, and I'm going to make sure that this joining I have at the back matches, and I'll be stitching this with 1 inch, and after that I'll go ahead to add zipper. So to add zipper, make sure at the lower part of your dress you come down by 7 inches before adding your zip, and at the upper part of your dress, to make sure that your dress relaxes very well at the back, go ahead and go in by ½ inch more than your zipper allowance on both sides. For example, if you have 1 inch on both sides for your zipper allowance, at the upper part use 1.5 inches. So after I was done sewing, this is the final look of the dress. So if you notice, mine did not have a box splitting. So this was what I was saying in the video. When you're creating yours, try and pleat the waist from the waistline of the dress to give it a box splitting. So with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. Please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and join us in our next video. Thanks.